right, everybody, welcome to the Politically Incorrect Podcast. We are so excited to finally start the first episode of this podcast. This is Matthew Kamara speaking at the moment. I'm joined by my fellow hosts as well, Evaldo Barros. And
Evaldo Barros, live and direct.
Also, Deshaun Barros.
What's up? Deshaun here.
Now, for those of you that don't know, this is a non-scripted podcast, meaning that we can talk about any topics at any time. Now, we do prepare some ideas that we may want to discuss, but ultimately, it's just going to come down to how things flow and how things go, and I think it's going to be a very exciting format the way that we're doing it. So we're excited.
And you'll begin to notice that each one of us, as you hear us speak, will touch base on certain types of topics. We'll have different types of styles. You'll begin to notice that. For me, I'm going to focus mostly, you'll see that, on culture-related things. And Deshaun has a sort of a different style, right, Deshaun? You got other things that you're probably going to be focusing on that the audience will begin to pick up on, right?
Yes. And while I'm actually speaking, I want to plug our Facebook page. Go and like our Facebook page at the Politically Incorrect Podcast on Facebook. Go and like our Instagram page. It's at the Politically Incorrect Pod on Instagram. So let's get our likes up. We want to get to 1,000. So we appreciate any viewers and anybody tuning in. As we
get it up to 1,000. We're trying to challenge everybody. Get their likes up to 1,000. We need your support to keep this going. So if you like what you're hearing and what you're going to hear today, get that like up to 1,000.
Yeah, I think one of the most another important thing to mention too is this. This is obviously focused more towards a conservative viewpoint, but I will point out that each of us, we have our own opinions. Some of it's going to be conservative based. A lot of it may be more moderate based. Some of us may have some liberal views on certain topics. And that's going to be an important aspect of this podcast as well, because you're going to get all sorts of different viewpoints. And we're not always going to agree. And we're not about censorship here. We're not like the left. So we don't support censoring our opinion. So what goes here, and obviously it's going to be within a godly perspective, because all of us here, we're Christians.
Yes.
We're not going to be supporting vulgar topics and things like that. There may be certain things that we may have to touch upon as Christians and God-fearing people, but we'll address those as they come. So we kind of just want to also talk about why we're doing this. So. And how this started. So obviously this podcast, it started kind of off as a joke, because every time we got together in fellowships, these were topics and discussions that we always liked to have, and it was always a lot of fun. And we'd always say, hey, maybe we should just start a podcast. And I think it was kind of born out of the idea of just kind of being frustrated too, because we have 2 years of a constant attack on conservative values and Christian values, and we just kind of had enough, and we said, you know what, that podcast that was once a joke, let's actually do this and show our perspectives, our opinions, and again, we're going to touch these topics not only in our opinions, but also through a Christian lens as well. So hopefully this is for you. If it's not, there's plenty of other podcasts that you can find on YouTube, I'm sure, but I think if you give us a chance and stick with us, you're going to have a lot of fun with us. And as well, we're going to have a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we're going to have lots of fun. This podcast is geared towards just being ourselves. I mean, we would have talks in the kitchen and our friend's house, and we would allow ourselves to just get into the political realm and try to see what's going on in this polarized America that we live in. We have such a demand and a hunger to hear more of the conservative voice. And the conservative voice in America is more of a silent majority in many cases. But like we said before, this podcast is aimed towards not only a conservative light, but a Christian light as well. And one of the main things that we really want to touch on in this podcast is the overwhelming scrutiny and criticism of the conservative opinion and voice.
And if you don't like us, please don't tune out. We welcome that. We want people that don't agree with us to chime in. Matter of fact, I would rather have more of that because I don't always want to be surrounded by people that disagree with me. That's no fun. That's not really challenging, right? So as long as you're respectful, write us in, email us
Yes.
with something with any comments or questions or things that you disagree on, and we'll touch base on it. I've got no problem doing that. I welcome that more because that brings up debates. That brings up good conversation.
Yep.
And you're right. This all started off as a joke, man. We'd be at one of our friends, our sisters' houses, and we'd just be having some good time talking about things, different topics that come up. We don't always agree on everything. There's things that we disagree on here. And that's good. That's what makes these things good. I like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was just said. I think that's spot on. Like we said earlier, we don't want a censorship, so we do welcome, the criticisms and the good stuff that you guys are going to say about us, because we're learning too. We don't know all the answers, so it's good to have other perspectives. I think one of the most dangerous things that we could possibly have as a nation is when we stop talking and having dialogue. I believe that sincerely that's the day that we begin to fall as a nation, when we can no longer have critical debates and be able to have important discussions on what's going on. We're not always going to agree together. We're not always going to agree with you, and you're not always going to agree with us. But the point is that we're having the discussion, and I think that's very important. So we've got some great topics that we're going to discuss today. I'm going to let Deshaun take the lead at this moment. He's going to be talking about the Mueller report that was just released not too long ago. And there's been a lot of discussion with that, and obviously the Democrats have continuously turned that into a circus as well. If you've been keeping up with the whole Attorney General Barr debacle, where they just can't let it go. For some reason, they just can't let it go, and it's just become, the Mueller report has already said that
It is a debauchery, man. It really is.
Yep.
It's a debauchery, man. It's a political, theatrical show that they're putting on with the Mueller report, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I think the conservative side of America should be absolutely appalled at the amount of effort that went into this investigation towards the Trump administration, trying to spy on the Trump administration without any legal ramifications around that. And William Barr, as he stood in front of the Senate the other day, I don't know if anybody got the chance to watch it, but his defense with the senators there and Lindsey Graham coming to his defense, the amazing thing that I had seen about it as far as the statements made there was that there was no evidence of collusion. No evidence. None.
Well, how about we give them a little background? Some people may not know who William Barr is and what the Mueller report's all about. I don't know if you just give them a quick background, I guess.
Yeah, so the Mueller report is a supposedly partisan investigation in which Robert Mueller, the guy who's leading the investigation, in which the report is named after, was tasked with investigating President Trump and his campaign and seeing if he actually colluded with the Russians. That was the whole point. These past 2 years, we've been hearing the Democrats call our president a traitor and a colluder with the Russians, when in fact they had no evidence at all. And in fact, the Democrats themselves actually played into the Russian collusion when
the only evidence they had was the Christopher Steele dossier report.
Right, which was bought by the Democrats, and pretty much made by the Russians. So, the Russians didn't steal the election, but they certainly did a good job of dividing this nation. But getting back on the report, basically no obstruction, no collusion as far as the president. But
as far as I'm concerned, everybody should be indicted. Everybody who was in this investigation should be indicted. It's ridiculous to me. Everybody in the Democratic Party who put on this Mueller report and tried to collude make this big false narrative of how the Trump administration colluded with Russia in order to win the 2016 election. If this was a Democratic president, we would have indictments, subpoenas. We would have so many things coming down on the this administration, that man, it's like a chaos. It's chaos.
Well, I think the funny thing is that the Obama administration was banking so much on Hillary winning in a landslide that they weren't concerned with a possible Trump presidency, and that all this stuff kind of coming out to light, what the Clintons were doing, all of this stuff that we're learning about would have been just swept under the rug, and none of us would have known anything about the Steele dossier and all that stuff. The spying most likely wouldn't have come to light. People want to kind of like just say it's no big deal, but you know what? They made a huge deal of Watergate, and in my opinion, this is much worse. You're spying on presidential candidates. Can you imagine, after Trump wins the second term, if Trump decided to start spying on the Democratic presidential candidates? Can you imagine what would be happening then?
Oh, yeah.
Well, good thing that you mentioned how all that started, because this whole investigation was worked on way before Trump got into office. So they started building up this Russia narrative as an insurance policy when you saw them investigate the two FBI agents that were involved. And they were texting each other, Strzok and Page, whatever,
Yep.
when they had mentioned having an insurance policy, because they put it in the back of their mind, just in case we don't win, but they were pretty confident that they were going to win. They wanted to have an insurance policy, so they started building up this Russian narrative way before Trump got elected. And actually, if you go back to when the campaign was going on and they asked Obama, what do you think about Russia potentially meddling in, and there's a clip of this, meddling in with the election. He wasn't worried about it. He says, they can't do it. I told Vladimir Putin, just cut it out. He wasn't concerned with it. But now, all of a sudden, because what happened with they didn't expect Trump to win, so now that he won, now all of a sudden Russia's a big concern. But it wasn't a concern for Obama when they knew, or they felt like Hillary definitely had the election in the bag. So they started working up this Russia narrative way before it actually happened, and a false dossier report that was bought and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Of course, Evaldo.
And now they're backtracking, because all this Russia report was just to divert attention from what the Obama administration did during the campaign. That's all it is. It's just political theater, like Deshaun was talking about. So now we got Barr, right? We got the Barr testimony that came out a couple days ago, right, Deshaun?
Yes.
Yeah,
Barr's
so
testimony came out. So now they're coming at him. The Democratic senators that were sitting on the panel the other day were absolutely drilling Barr on the Mueller report and his time with Mueller as well, and asking for, I guess, phone calls or letters or some kind of evidence of Mueller and Barr talking about the investigation. And one of the things that surprised me, Evaldo told me on the drive here to shoot today, was that Barr was very stern in his approach and just said,
"Oh, he was
no,
he was gangster." Because he's not playing into their games. He's an adult. You know what I mean? He's like, they asked him for the report of him and Mueller, of their conversation. They asked him for it. He's like, no.
Yeah.
no. No.
The great thing about Barr is he's done this before. So he's seasoned. He understands the political games that these politicians are going to be playing, and he knows how to deal with them, which is a stark contrast to Sessions, who had never done this before. So I think William Barr is going to be great for the Trump administration, and I think so far he's handled the Mueller report fine.
So there's no evidence of collusion. There's no evidence of Russian collusion in this Mueller report whatsoever. It's a 400-page document, over 400-page document, that concludes really that you were wrong.
And it's out there in the public to read.
So please, the American people, please go and read the report.
And I think the reason why the Democrats are so desperate right now, too, is because William Barr specifically said that he's going to be opening up investigations into a lot of these players, and that's getting people scared because they got a lot of skeletons in their closet.
They're dead man's
I can't wait for the day that guy Adam Schiff is exposed, because here's a man who lied for 2 years claiming that he had evidence of Trump collusion and calling our president a traitor. For no reason. So I'm still waiting for him to release his evidence. And so far he's got nothing, but I can't wait for that day that him and many of the other, whether they're Democrat or Republican, I don't care who you are, that that you're anti-Trump because you're afraid of being exposed.
Oh man, what a day we live in.
So Barr is up there voluntarily because he hasn't been subpoenaed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all this is, like Deshaun mentioned, was a political, theatrical show to do two things: wear Trump down by the time the elections come, and to discredit Barr. I think to discredit him, to make him look like he's just a Trump puppet. So when he starts coming out with these investigations, he looks discredited. That's all this is. So he's there voluntarily, and they're asking him for stuff, and he's saying, "No, I'm not giving that to you." He's not being subpoenaed. So all this is a political show to look like they're trying to impeach him or come against Trump or make him, make Barr look discredited to appease their base, the Democratic base, and to wear Trump down for when the elections come around and to make Barr look discredited. That's all this is.
Oh yeah,
This is what politics has become. It's unfortunate because they don't want to work on anything real. They want to have this big show just so each side can get, points.
Yeah.
And that's it.
yeah.
So Barr is there. The only thing they disagree with Barr on is the timing of him releasing the report. That's it.
Right. So
It's so stupid.
they were upset that he didn't release 19 pages, and that he was late in delivering those pages,
Right.
like Evaldo said. But William Barr went above and beyond and ended up releasing all 400 plus pages of the Mueller report. Yeah, it was late, but you got the whole thing. And then the senators had access, as long as they had clearance, had access to any redacted information as well. All 400 pages, no collusion. So there it is. I mean, you can say what you want, Democrats, but your narrative for the past 2 years have fallen apart, and now they're just grasping at straws.
Yeah, you need to figure out a different approach here because you're actually losing more than you are gaining anything at this point. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous the amount of effort that went into this investigation, and yet no collusion was found. So that lets you know a little bit about the platform the Democratic Party is running on.
And if anything, all this circus act is actually helping the president, because I saw a poll from a pretty liberal news site the other day stating that people don't even want to impeach President Trump, and this is on both sides, because they know that this has been a false narrative for the past 2 years. Just yesterday, CNN, the worst news network, in my opinion. I wouldn't even consider them news.
Fake news.
They
Fake
begrudgingly had to admit that Trump has done so well with the economy that over 56% of the American people approve of what he's done. Which is going to start bringing us, unless you guys want to continue talking about William Barr, is going to be bringing us to that Democratic platform, which, I mean, we could have shows upon shows based on the sheer stupidity and the clowning of what they're proposing.
Man, you are so right, man. It's just ridiculous. The amount of stuff we could talk endlessly about that. We'd be here for hours talking about that. But one thing we should touch upon is the reparations.
Yep.
This is ridiculous to me. Matt, can you explain a little bit further about reparations and how this... we got paid. We got our first reparations thanks to Matt. We want to thank Matt for that one.
I don't. If they're dumb enough to give it out, I'll take it.
So, yeah, we kind of have a little bit of a funny story with reparations. So, I know we're joking about it, but this is an actual platform that Democrats are hoping to run on when they're going against Trump. I guess when the economy is so well, what else can you do? They're just kind of throwing darts at a wall and just seeing what sticks. But yeah, they're actually proposing, some of them, reparations.
Yeah, man. Because, black folks always want free money. I just told you I want free money, so they always want free money.
I mean, on one hand, can you blame people if the government, like you said, is stupid enough to hand out free money? Why wouldn't you take it, right?
It's a talking point.
This definitely is a talking point.
But yeah, they're actually
the
proposing reparations in which the United States is going to pay black people for some misdeeds that they did in the past. And
what if you're mixed though? What if you got white in you though? What if because a lot of the slave owners back then they would impregnate the black women, and then that's why you have certain black people with white last names, black folks. If you didn't know that, the name McCall, right? Some of those names, those are white names that you have.
I'm
What if you're
assuming
mixed?
I'm assuming because this is a Democrat platform that you probably aren't going to have to prove that you're black anyways to sign up for this. Who knows? Elizabeth
No,
Warren.
I say exactly. I say you go to the same people that did Elizabeth Warren's DNA test, and you get your percentages of blackness done there, and that's how much you get paid.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You should get paid
if-
off the percentages of blackness. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Well, I guess you could do that, but
the stupidity to me just
I
runs
guess
so
I can-
deep with them.
I can go back into my ancestry and see if I have any black folks in my family, and maybe I can apply for some reparations as well. But most likely that's not going to work out because I'm a straight white Christian Portuguese man.
Yeah, if you're not familiar
You're a
with us yet, I
colonizer,
am.
man.
Mine,
You
So-
get no reparations.
he gets none.
You
You
should
know?
be taxed.
According to the Democrat Party, I'm the most evil thing just walking around.
Yes.
I should be apologizing. In fact, Avaldo, I apologize for
You
my
should be
whiteness.
sorry. You know what? You know what we should do instead of reparations, right? Or you could do this additionally. Just start taxing white people for being white.
Well, that's essentially
I
what
think that's
reparations
essentially-
is.
that's
No,
essentially
you
what's
should be getting
happening.
taxed for white privilege.
Really,
Yeah.
really. I mean, come on, American people, wake up. This is so stupid.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my white privilege to kick in. So
This is ridiculous to me that we have gotten, the Democratic Party has gotten so low to where it's running off of reparations and a false narrative of collusion. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And the majority of the black vote is the reason why any Democratic president or candidate is even able to get into office. It's just absolutely appalling.
we'll
to me.
touch upon that too because I think that's changing slowly, but it's changing. But I want to get back on reparations because we actually have a funny story. We have a good friend of ours. His name is Russ. I won't give you his last name. He's very liberal. So we clash a lot, but I think it's more in joking more than anything.
More in good fun.
We
yeah.
don't really take our debates.
We don't hate you, man. We love you, man.
We don't take our debates too serious. I don't think he does either. It's more in fun. But I had posted up a Facebook post to him at Russ, telling him that he was late on his reparation payments to Avaldo and Deshaun here. And you know what? He didn't complain. He conformed to that to what the Democrats want, and he sent payments. So the Democrats have done this, and this is what happens when you put real leadership in power.
Exactly.
When you put a good, godly Christian conservative into leadership power, I get things done. We get things done, and it only took one day. I got these guys reparation payments. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it, but hey. If somebody's going to pay it.
Hey, man, if you
How
want to give
fast
me
will
money
you
for some
get it done?
reparations,
'Cause we
man.
got paid this past Sunday, right?
Yeah.
At 12:25, I'm looking at the picture on Facebook. We got paid then, and you had put up the post to when. I'm trying to see if I can get the timing of the post on your thing here. I'm trying to get the whole thing up.
You got to get the whole story, man, because I mean, Russ, I just can't seem to wrap my head around the fact that you'd want to pay us reparations for something that we never even participated in. This is
How do I get all the posts up from this whole thread here?
I'll put a disclaimer. Obviously, I think it was all in good fun and joking.
we were having good fun. This is fun. This is fun. And as of today, I'm having more fun shooting this show here. So we appreciate you guys.
I will note that I did get some white privilege in that deal, though.
That's true.
Because
That is true.
because you guys got paid how much?
We got $6, and the white boy got paid $8.
Yeah, somehow
We got paid $8.
somehow I managed getting two additional dollars. So I guess that's the white
Amazing
privilege.
stuff.
That's
Yeah.
the white privilege.
Maybe
man.
that's
the white privilege.
Maybe that's the kickback that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are hoping to get in their reparations payment. Maybe that's a foreshadowing to come. But all joking aside, that is something that they're actually pushing, reparations for something that happened. So then, what ends up happening is you end up just opening up a whole can of worms. So what about the Jewish people and all the other people that have been under slavery?
It's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me that the black vote is really still getting sold their own oppression. This is crazy to me. That we are still getting sold this oppressive narrative that's slavery, and we need to still think about these things and reparations payments. It's amazing. The Democratic Party will go to any lengths to get the black vote. But as we're seeing in this coming age, as conservatism is starting to get a revive or a revamp, I should say, there are black conservatives. There's a big movement out there of people who are black and who are conservative. And regardless of the skin color, regardless of white, black, Asian, whatever, just being an American citizen, being an American first is one thing that all of us should really appreciate as a country, as a people, in order to unite ourselves in the fight against this debauchery, really. That's really what this is.
Isn't it funny that particular party, they're always talking about racism, yet they're the ones that are always bringing up color and the skin color of people and creating division within this country. It's funny. I'm sitting here, one white guy with two black guys, and we can have this discussion with no issues. There's no racism here. We can joke about these things and have fun with it, and it not become this whole big issue.
So I'm reading your post here, Matt. You actually sent the post at Saturday at 10:24 a.m. and you wrote, Russ, you missed your first payment of reparations to Evaldo and Deshawn. Please make sure you pay them at your earliest convenience. And the very next day, our leader here, Matt, being the great diplomat that he is, he was able to get reparations. So now take a note of this, Democrats. He was able to get reparations done in one day.
1 day, man. Wow.
1 day. Now,
look at this.
That's
what a diplomat you are, man.
That's real. That's fast.
That's something, man.
So, but anyway, seriously though, this is ridiculous. Okay, and certain bases within certain parts of the Democratic base, certain black people, a lot of black people will fall for this, because this is what happens when you make a group of people. If you sort of demoralize them to being victims and convince them of all the madness that they've been convinced of, this stuff works because they're filled with anger, unforgiveness, particularly towards white people. The white people are the reasons and the blame for most, if not all, of their problems, right? Which is fascinating to me. Because I think if you go back and you look at the death tolls of whites involved in the Civil Rights War with Abraham Lincoln, which was a Republican, by the way, right? They hate white people so much, but it was the same white people that fought and bled and died for them so they can not be enslaved anymore. And then during the Civil Rights Movement, which was led by a Republican named Martin Luther King, right? And they don't tell you that. The Democrats won't tell you that he's a Republican.
Oh, no.
It was some white people were up there. It was all white Republicans that were voting for blacks to get their rights to vote and be a part of society, while all the Democrats were voting no.
Right.
So if you hate white people so much, do you hate the ones that also gave you your rights too? This is the madness that we're talking about here. But yet they blanket all white people and start hating all white people. And if you get people to think like that, so when you start pushing reparations and all this junk, they're going to fall for it. They're going to want it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. At this point, the black community has been demoralized in many areas of not only politics, but just in life in general. So it's easy to manipulate them when it's geared towards a people who, in many cases, need to be educated on some of these issues more than they are right now. So not saying that the black community is not educated, but in many cases, we need a place where people are more educated on these issues and not just spitting out what's been told to them over a social media post or an Instagram live feed or whatever. We need more places where people can go in order to receive information, truthful information, not CNN, and not none of these media outlets.
I agree.
The media is, I think the mainstream media is just, it's a poison to the American community, the American society. The mainstream media needs to, oh man.
Well, it's a poison to those that are not actually doing the legwork to find out what they're reporting is true or not.
Which most Americans won't do.
You have places like CNN that have admitted that they're not investigative journalists, that they don't actually investigate what comes across their desk. So anything that's anti-Trump, they're going to report on it just because. I was sitting in a place getting my car fixed, and they had that terrible TV show on. And the entire time that I was there, for the 4 hours I was there, it was just them constantly talking about the Mueller report and how Trump was, in no doubt, obstructing his investigation. This is an investigation that cost, what, $35 million, record subpoenas. This guy was allowed to do whatever he wanted. He had free reign, unlimited money, unlimited resources. He was able to do his job, and he did it well. The reason why Democrats hate him now is because they didn't get the results that they wanted. I know I'm getting off topic here, but getting back on reparations.
I just thought of something, Matt. Do you know that everything that black people have been given to them by white Republicans? Imagine this. Slavery, a white Republican and whites died for them. Civil rights movement, white Republicans all voted in the Senate, while all the Democrats voted no.
It was white Republicans that passed the Civil Rights Movement.
And affirmative action by Richard Nixon.
A Republican.
So, the very people that you hate...
We're both black, by the way, so
the very
we're
people
both
that you hate
black
gave you every nonsense that you wanted, and the very people that you love enslaved you and put you in Jim Crow laws. So slavery was by the Dixiecrat, the Democrats. Jim Crow during the civil rights days was by Democrats. So I don't understand.
But they somehow manipulated people to believe the party switched at one point. I think I kind of attribute to this. There's that phenomena, right, where people who are abused, they can't leave that abuser. There's just something there that it just forces them there, and I feel like that's kind of where black people are at. They've been abused by so much by the Democrats that they just feel like they can't leave. They don't know any better. But it's starting to change. Like I mentioned that earlier. I think approval ratings amongst black people for President Trump has doubled, and that has never happened before for a president.
Oh man, think about this though.
Well, that's why they want a new voting block.
Right.
They need to get illegals and they need to get people in jail.
I'm sorry to cut.
that'll be another topic.
That's another topic. Yeah, that's another topic.
Fact,
one of the day.
I just want to touch one more thing on reparations. Again, we always talk about slavery and black people, but you know what? There was actually an event that happened much sooner, which was the internment camps of Japanese people in the United States of America, where during World War II, the United States went into Japanese communities and homes, even those that were American citizens at the time, and no evidence of them being spies. And they ripped them from their homes and their businesses and put them into internment camps or concentration camps. Obviously not anywhere near as bad as what the Jews went through over in Germany and Poland. But still, can you imagine being torn from your home in the United States of America and being put in internment camps? And you know what? You don't hear those people complaining. You don't hear those people saying that they're victims of anything or wanting reparations or anything. They went back to their lives and they rebuilt their homes and their communities and their businesses. And I think that's what the black community needs to do too. They need to stop feeling sorry for themselves and stop falling victim by their abusers, and they need to rebuild their communities. They need to rebuild their families and bring those morals back that they once had.
And you know how that happened. I'll touch base on that, Matt. In Jim Crow days, black folks had father and mother in the home. They owned land. There was no such word as racism. They understood that certain white people felt this way and certain white people did not feel that way about Jim Crow. Their family was intact. They were moral. Being pregnant out of wedlock or any of these things that the black community faced was like a shame for them. You'd never find that. They went to church. They were godly. They worked hard. They didn't complain. So what did the Democrats do? if you destroy, like Matt said, if you destroy the family unit, you will get a demoralized, victimized group of people. And that's when all this began, when they introduced a welfare policy by the Democrats. I believe which president was that? Was it, it wasn't Roosevelt, it was...
It started under Kennedy, I believe, and then went to
another president. So they started knocking down doors and asking black folks, is there a man in the house? And if there wasn't a man, they would get welfare. And when you start giving free stuff and asking them to pretty much incentivize them not to have that family unit, that's when you start having a group of people that would just be victims all their lives and not be able to rebuild or stand on their own 2 feet when things like this happen. They won't be able to overcome it mentally. So now black folks morally are worse off than they were when they actually had real oppression. So just think about that. Just think about that. That's amazing to me.
Well, we're nearing the end of our first podcast installment of the Politically Incorrect podcast. And I want to thank everybody who liked our Facebook page, everybody who liked our Instagram page. Like I said before, I want to plug that again. Go like our Facebook page at the Politically Incorrect Podcast.
1,000 likes,
Facebook.
1,000 likes.
Go and like our Instagram page at the Politically Incorrect Pod I said Facebook, Instagram. Go like our Instagram page, the Politically Incorrect. Link in bio. We didn't get to everything today. I think one thing we haven't got to, we have a whole list of things like healthcare for all, Green New Deal, free college tuition, lower prescription drugs, Cory Booker, Trump already doing this, talking about securing elections, yet refuse to admit defeat, Stacey Abrams. So we really are excited about where this podcast is going to go.
And guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything that we touched base on today, any disagreements or whatever, if you like the show, any suggestions you might have for the show, do you want more of it, or is it good just, the way we have it now? Whatever it is, email us, either at our email. What's our email?
Our email is thepoliticallyincorrectpod@gmail.com.
Or send us a message on our Facebook page. Just reach out and give us your take.
And we welcome discourse, please. Any liberal person who wants to come on here, maybe call in, whatever, we welcome it. We are not afraid, and we are very excited to debate. Just like anybody would say, please come to the front of the line. We want people who disagree, not all people who agree. So please, Matt, you want to take us out? Or?
All right, so I think we had a very fair and good discussion this morning as we're recording, and we're excited for where this podcast is going to go.
And if you listen to him, America, he sounds very comfortable, and he's a white person around 2 black men. He doesn't sound afraid at all. He's very comfortable. I'm looking at him. He's at ease.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, no matter what color skin you are, I think it's very important. You shouldn't be apologizing.
That's right, white people. Don't be afraid to be white.
Don't apologize for the color of skin that God gave you. And
Amen, yes.
Amen.
Much love to you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Go like our pages, all right?
And we'll see
and
you.
We're out.
We'll see you next week.
Woo!